What is up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to some MX Simulator gameplay action, where today we're going to review the 2024 Washougal National. The AMA Pro Motocross Championship went there to Washougal this weekend. Myself hung out, talked to a lot of the riders and all that stuff after the race. Good times as always, and yeah, let's talk about it, because we've got ourselves a diminishing championship title fight, but still some pretty interesting storylines regardless, and kind of cool to see the Pacific Northwest again. We got 3 rounds of outdoors left to go. Loretta's is coming up. There's a lot of things going on in the moto world at the moment, so figured I'd play a little bit of Washougal and talk about what I saw over the weekend and what I thought about it all. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Yeah, Chase Sexton sweeps the 450 class again. I don't really feel like there's much to talk about with Sexton anymore, other than that I think there is a case to be made that he's gotten better since Jet went out, and obviously people have said, well, you know, Jet's been in his head a little bit, and he doesn't feel as confident in his own self when Jet is on the racetrack, and I think that there is some merit to that, but I do also think that Chase has found some settings on the bike that has gotten him to this point anyway, because he was really good in the second moto at Southwick when he beat Jet, and I know Jet was ailing at the time, but still very good ride, I feel like, out of Chase there, and yeah, I think he's just been slowly getting back to this point on this KTM. And while, you know, Jet and Hunter's new to the 450 class, but he's been on this Honda platform for a couple of years now, and he's obviously tested on a 450 even in prior years as well, because they like to jump around bikes every once in a while. I just think that Chase, it took him a little bit of time to get the KTM to a level where at every round he went to, it was comfortable, because obviously it was very good at Hangtown, then it wasn't good at Thunder Valley, then it was pretty good at High Point, at least in the second moto, and then since then he's started to find a little bit more stability and comfort with it, and so on and so forth. So I think there is a little bit of merit to the Jet's out and Chase is now the alpha of the class kind of situation, but I would also say he has found some things with that bike, and I'm kind of excited to see you know, if he's going to stay with KTM next year, Jet's going to be back, and we'll see if Eli races again, and hopefully Webb will be healthy. Like, I want to see this version of Chase versus next year's Jet Lawrence already, because I kind of feel like the championship has gotten away, and obviously Hunter Lawrence did not have a very good weekend. The championship lead now 28 points with 3 rounds to go. I was, you know, pretty much already certain that Chase was going to win it after Jet went out anyway. I did think Hunter would have a little bit better motos than he's been having, but now that it's been as bad as it has, and it's not bad, but as, you know, quickly as things have gotten to this, you know, direction with Hunter, Chase is going to win the championship, and it's going to be pretty easily done so in the end. But to the point of Hunter, he talked to my good buddy Lewis Phillips of Vital MX after the race about this. They're going to go get blood work done this week. He has been slowly looking like he's been more and more fatigued at each round, and I, you know, being at Millville and Washougal these last couple weeks, I kind of saw it in person, just the body language changes with Hunter. First moto, more usual himself up front, battling for the win, battling for the lead. Halfway through this week, though, I felt like that started happening, and then the crash really exacerbated it when he went down battling Chase for second. He got up and just, to me, looked tired, and he's been kind of saying after the race, yeah, I got a little tired. This week when he talked to Lewis Phillips about it, because he wasn't in the press conference, so he only spoke with Lewis, he basically just said, like, yeah, I'm like toast right now. Like, I'm exhausted. I don't know why it's happening. I don't know what's going on. So we're going to go get blood work done and really get to the bottom of this, because we got to figure it out. Now, my theory behind it was that he is a rookie in this 450 class. Justin Cooper is going to go through these same motions as well, where these guys have never raced this long of a season. Even when Hunter was racing MX2 GPs, you know, if he does, let's say, 3 preseason races and a whole GP calendar, he's still only doing 23 races a year. And right now we're 25 races into this championship on a bike that, you know, is bigger, more powerful, throws you around more. And suddenly Hunter was in the midst of a title fight. Like, I genuinely thought that all of that mixed together would lead to a little bit more fatigue for him anyway. But now I think that even Hunter kind of agrees, like, it's hit a level that is not normal. It's not the level that he expects of himself, or really anybody expects of him. And so there's a reason why it's time to go get some blood work done. And I think that's the right move. You know, maybe he should have gotten this done a little bit earlier. Some people can argue that. I get it. But I think for him, it was just time to, you know, sit down and really take a good hard look at what's going on and why his body is feeling this way. And instead of just general fatigue, it seems like it's weighed on him a little bit more than that. So I'm kind of keen to see what the results say this week. I don't even know that we'll get an answer this week. We really might not, because he might just hold out those results until later and only work on fixing himself before he starts talking about it. But I think the Lawrence camp is usually pretty open, and since he said he will go get blood work done and said that, in a public interview, I would have to imagine at some point we hear something about that later this week and, hear what the real story is. Because, could he just be getting fatigued? Yes, but I think it lends to maybe some, form of Epstein-Barr. Some guys have been getting COVID lately. Who did I interview on the weekend that said they got COVID? It was maybe Dylan Schwartz said he did. While COVID I don't feel like is as negative of an impact as it used to be, it is still kind of like a more extreme version of a cold that takes you, probably out of your training regimen and your normal routine for a week and a half or so, and so you lose all that. And I'm not saying Hunter had that, but I could see a situation where, an illness similar to that could have knocked him down a few notches for sure. So I think that there's a lot of things at play with this Hunter situation, and I'm glad that he's going to spend these 2 weeks trying to figure it out, because, let's say he does go get that testing done and figure some things out and maybe changes a couple things up with, I don't know, his diet or even takes like a full week or, week and a half off, because these guys have basically 21 days between races now. Like, they raced this past Saturday at Washougal, which was July 20th, and we don't race till August 10th at Unadilla because of the Loretta's break. So, MX Sports goes and does the Loretta Lynn stuff, and so the whole series takes a pretty prolonged break because of that, and that's kind of been the usual situation. But I think that this is now the right time for Hunter and his camp to get a hand on this and figure out what's going on, and keen to hear what goes on with that. Aside from Hunter, I think everyone else is kind of starting to hit their stride, except maybe J. Coop. I feel like J. Coop is not so much because of the same things I mentioned about fatigue throughout the season as Hunter. But, I mean, honestly, J. Coop in the first moto, even though he went second and finished third, like he started second and got third, yeah, he got passed by Chase, but Jason got on him and then he wicked it back up and kind of pulled back away from Jason. So even that, I was kind of like, okay, good job. Like, Cooper has the, late moto push in him still this late into the season, and that's not, something that every rookie is good and keen to adapt to. So I'm excited to see his progress there. The second moto, some people are going to look at that seventh and be like, but I heard that his crash was actually pretty darn good. It happened somewhere in the back of the track, and I forget who said it. Maybe Anderson, maybe somebody else suggested that his crash was pretty gnarly. And listen, I think that he did a pretty good job salvaging in the first place. I think he got up in about like 15th, 16th place and got to 7th. And it was hot. It was, the track was pretty gnarly. And honestly, I think most of the guys rode pretty well in the second moto anyway. So for J. Coop to salvage a 7-3 day, thought was pretty darn good. But yeah, Jason Anderson, Aaron Plessinger, both really, I feel like, are starting to hit their strides. And it's honestly creating an interesting conundrum here for the Motocross of Nations, because Jason Anderson is not going, as much as people would love to see that. The race isn't in the USA. Kawasaki has not supported this race for many years, which to me is about the dumbest marketing strategy on planet Earth, but you do you, boo. So no Jason Anderson at Nations, that's not going to happen. But I feel like the second 450 seat alongside Chase Sexton for Team USA has been interesting to discuss, because Justin Cooper is third in the championship, and so you just say, okay, pick the top two Americans in the title, which at the moment are Chase in P1 and Justin Cooper in P3, but do you not start having a second thought about, okay, well, AP, go back, get some redemption. Obviously, things didn't go the way he wanted last year. He's looking like he's getting better and more comfortable. Led a lot of the first moto this past weekend. Ends up getting second overall, another KTM 1-2. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit closer than just picking J. Coop. And a lot of people say, well, J. Coop starts and all that, and I agree. And another thing that I've thought about and that I would maybe consider talking about is I don't think Hayden Deegan's going. He again talked to Lewis Phillips, and he's mentioned this a couple times. He's got to get hardware out of his wrist, his scaphoid that he broke in preseason testing before Supercross. He's got to get some hardware out of that. So when Lewis asked him straight up, hey, what about Nations? He's like, yeah, well, these things come up and we'll have to get some hardware out and yada yada. So I don't know. I don't think Deegan goes again. whatever, it's their prerogative not to go. I just kind of wish that at some point he will. Not in the USA. I think just going in the USA is kind of an easy cop-out for those guys. But anyway, point being, if Deegs doesn't go, it opens up the door of opportunity for who USA would pick as the MX2 rider, because Chance Hymas is going to be available probably for Honda with the Lawrence brothers going for Australia, so HRC will go, at least the US side of it. Shimoda is not going for Japan, but that doesn't mean that they can't send a 250 bike over there. And so Hymas is available. I would assume Levi Kitchen is available. I know Mitch Payton has had some fallings out with Roger DeCoster over the year about this event, but it seems like last year when it was a potential option to have maybe Max Voland or Levi go for PC when they were transitioning to teams, Mitch raised his hand and said, yeah, all day. And in the end, they chose Christian Craig instead. But so I think you would talk about Hymas, you would talk about Kitchen as the second MX or the MX2 slot. I'm almost saying, look, last year, all of those guys, Hymas, Kitchen, heck, even Deegs, lost in the 250 championship to Justin Cooper. And I get it, Cooper's been riding a 450 all year, but I would not be opposed at all of putting Justin Cooper back on a Star Racing 250. I really wouldn't. And maybe Star wouldn't want to do that. Maybe Justin Cooper's contracts haven't been figured out, but I felt like I got the sentiment over the weekend that he will be back at Star, just talking to some people about it. So if he is, then obviously there's no contract conflictions there. He could still do it. I don't know. To me, I feel like at this point, with the situation as it is, I would almost maybe, especially with Hymas being hurt and seeing how he's going to do to end out this season. Hampshire is going to come back from injury, but I don't know. And then Kitchen has been kind of hot and cold lately. I would like to see Justin Cooper on the team, I think. So that's my that would be my pick. If Deegan's not going to go, and I love Chance Hymas, don't get me wrong, I would love to have Chance Hymas on the team as well. But if Deegan's not going to go, I would maybe lean towards Sexton, AP, our 450 guys, and J Coop on a 250. But let me know what you guys think. Would you prefer Hymas over J Coop on a 250? Because it seems like they would maybe pick AP now. Would you prefer to have Sexton, J Coop, Hymas, Sexton, J Coop, Kitchen? And this is all saying if Deegan doesn't go, which, again, he hasn't said 100% no to, but I don't believe he will, so we'll see. Anyway, 450-wise, I do think AP, Jason Anderson, they've been getting better. It's cool to see them more up in the mix, and honestly, I think I wouldn't be surprised if either of them won a moto before this thing is done, because AP led pretty far along in the first moto, and Jason led more than half of the second moto, so you just take one bad start for Chase down the stretch, one of those guys will get up there and mix it up as well. So keen to see how they do at Budds Creek and Ironman and Unadilla when we come back from the break. All right, let's talk 250 class. I want to make this video too darn long. Vial and Hayden Deegan split Moto wins. Vial wins Moto 1, Deegan wins Moto 2. They go 1-2-2-1. I interviewed Vial after the race, not Hayden, but I obviously listened to Hayden in the press conference. Vial basically said that he feels like he's had this form the last couple of weeks, last whatever month or so, dating back to High Point, but he just has not been able to stay off the ground to kind of prove it. And I guess that's fair, because he has had 2 or 3 motos already where it seems to me like he would be fast enough to win, and crashes. I would say, thinking back to the second moto at Spring Creek, he's in third, he crashes in the whoops. Obviously second moto at High Point, he was leading and crashed out of the lead all by himself. He's been there. He's been close, but I just feel like this weekend was much more the normal Tom Vial that we expect, especially he got 2 hole shots, which he hasn't really had good starts all year, but this weekend they were much better. And while he did seem to fatigue maybe a little bit in the second moto, and that's when Deegs got him, I think Vial's overall performance through both motos looked a lot stronger, more comfortable with the bike and the machine. So he said that they made a couple changes to the bike coming into Washougal, more or less to kind of prep for the hard pack conditions, and it ended up being a little bit deeper and softer than they expected. But I just think that in general he had to kind of click it into his own head that he's Tom freaking Vial and needs to be a little bit better. He's been quite frustrated the last couple weeks and really, in my opinion, blew the championship by like 4th or 5th round of the series anyway. So now that he's not in the championship hunt anymore, had the bad race at Spring Creek, and I think he did move back in a second in the standings, I think, but it's a pretty long ways back that now he can kind of have the pressure off of going for a title and instead just going to go for these race wins. And I think that's why we're starting to see him back on form. But in the second moto, Deegan kind of showed why he is the guy that's going to win this championship. And I think if you're Vial, you really had to not let him win that moto. But he kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say gave it to him, but the pass was a little too easy, in my opinion, for Deegan to get by him. They were barely halfway to the moto. I don't even think they were halfway. I think it was maybe like lap 7 of 15 or 16. And Deegan went around the outside of him, like swooped the outside into an inside rut together. And I don't know, I feel like if you're Vial, you kind of force the issue a little bit there. Again, I know that he probably doesn't think he has a shot at the championship, but he was having a good weekend, and I think probably had the speed to win, but maybe just not the endurance of the second moto. But that's what Deegan's been doing all year, man. He's been wearing these guys down. He kind of did that in the first moto with Vial. Vial just wasn't really, close enough that Deegan could catch up to him, but Deegan got in a second, and then those two took off. Like, they put 15 some odd seconds on everybody else behind. And, I think that they're kind of showing why they're the two best 250 motocross riders, at least in this field. I'd be keen to see Deegan race Kida Wolf and all those guys at Nations, but he won't. So right now, I think that they are the two best guys. Obviously, Hymas has been pretty good. Kitchen got a win last week at Spring Creek. But the speed that they exhibited this weekend was quite astounding, in my opinion. And Deegan is, kind of the owner of the class at the moment. 53 points, 3 rounds to go. I'm starting to lean towards him wrapping it up at Budds Creek around early. He is high enough, points-wise to do that already, but he needs to maintain this points gap and not let Vial get any closer. But I can 100% see him holding on to it from here on out. He's done kind of the work, in my opinion, of just every single moto. He either starts outside the top 10 and gets back to a podium, or starts inside the top 10 and battles for a win. And it just seems like rinse and repeat every single week. And I know he's had a couple, things with the bike and a couple other things like that happen of late that have maybe kept him from that. Obviously, the weird crash at Redbud and et cetera, but I think this form is pretty much the reason why he has such a massive lead in the championship in the first place. And it's impressive to me that it doesn't really feel like he's managing the championship. Maybe he is a little bit, but he's still going out there battling each moto for trying to actually get a win, and got back on the top step of the podium this time out. It was his first overall win since Southwick, so it's been a couple rounds, but also a 6 moto winless streak was snapped. And he did it the hard way, caught and passed Tom Vial and got away. So this is Deegan's championship to lose. I think for everyone else fighting for second, it's kind of like musical chairs at this point. Kitchen's had a good race to get back up there. Obviously, Hymas had it for a long time, then the big crash at Spring Creek, and now Vial's turn to kind of shine forward a little bit. So, I think going into Unadilla, I still would say Vial's probably... Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Vial win Unadilla. He's really good on those kind of Euro-style tracks, and Unadilla always seems to be a track that the Euro riders do a little bit better at anyway, so wouldn't be surprised to see him get a win there. But I do think that the second-place championship fight is much more interesting than first. We know who's going to get it at that point. I didn't want to talk about Chance Hymas, though, and the whole thing happens with Hayden Deegan at Spring Creek, gets the foot caught in the wheel well going to the first corner. I'm not going to talk about what Deegan said after the race. I'm just going to say that that was not Chance Hymas' fault in any stretch of the imagination, in my opinion. Anyway, his foot was badly damaged in the crash. I hear a lot of little torn ligaments in the foot, but none that were big enough to keep him out of this race. And then I also heard that his foot is basically like every color in the rainbow, pretty much, and purple and blue and all that good stuff that goes on when you have some severe bruising from an injury like the one that he is dealing with. And quite literally, when I talked to him on Friday, he could barely stand. He was wincing in pain every time he walked from the media center back to the Honda pits, which is quite literally about 20 feet away from each other. And then Saturday after the race, which, by the way, he goes 8-12 for 9th on the day, I went up to him, and he was standing there signing autographs with fans, taking pictures, standing. And I'm like, why are you standing? And he's like, honestly, like, at this point, it hurts so much, no matter if I'm sitting, standing, it doesn't make a difference. So what? I might as well just come over here and deal with it. And I was like, well, I don't have to interview if you don't want. Or if you want to do an interview, can we go sit down? And he's like, nah, I'm good right here. So I interviewed him. And he basically just said, like, yeah, it was pretty darn painful, but the adrenaline helped quite a bit. And he really just realized that he needed to get through this weekend and kind of push through the pain to salvage some decent points, because he still really wants to fight for second in the championship. And obviously the SMX points also matter a decent bit for seeding, so he wanted to get those. And so I asked him when he crashed at the beginning of the second moto, and he's dead last, 20 seconds behind the field, like, did he ever once think, let's just pull it in? This has been ridiculous. This weekend has not gone my way. And he's like, I spent maybe 20 seconds thinking about that, and then I was like, nope, I'm going to put my head down and charge. And he went from 40th to 12th on basically one leg. And he also said that in the crash at the start of the second moto, he actually tweaked the other knee. So he has damage on his right foot, and the left knee that was the torn ACL knee last year got all tweaked up again. Not torn or anything, but just like some, some pain and stuff like that from having it just twinged a little bit weird. So as you saw him walk back to his bike, he said he was walking that slow because he literally couldn't feel really either leg actually touching the ground as he walked over there, which was a unique situation for him. But dude, like, all the credit in the world for him to get up. He said he just wanted to get a point, and he gets 12th in the moto. That charge was insane, and I think deserves a lot more respect than it's probably going to get this week, because it's not going to be talked about much. But yeah, Chance Hymas is a gnarly dude, and he's really fighting to stay as close as he possibly can in this little hunt here for second in the championship, and give him a lot of credit for that, because a lot of guys, especially someone in his position who's really already kind of proved it this year. I think he's already locked in his option deal for next year to continue with HRC, which I think was going to happen anyway, but I think that now he's had the results outdoors this year, it's really kind of solidified it. It's just kind of cool to see that it doesn't really matter to him about thinking, okay, I got to make sure I'm 100% healthy and ready to go for this race 5-6 months from now. He just wants to go out there and battle and contend every single week, and it's cool to see that he fought through the pain like that. So, like I said, much credit to him. Off day for Levi Kitchen. He said that this track is never one that really suits him that well, but the bad start in the first moto really set him a ways back, because he just kind of got stuck in that pace, which to me is a little bit of sounding the alarm. It feels a little bit like old Levi Kitchen when he was on a star bike to me, but I digress about that situation. So yeah, second place in the championship. It's a hot potato. Who wants it and who wants to throw it away? Kitchen had it this past week after Spring Creek, and then had a terrible race, and now Vial has it, and Hymas had it 2 weeks ago, but then obviously the foot damage, and suddenly Joe Shimoda looks like he's back to his old self, goes 3-3 this weekend. So I don't know. I have no idea who's going to get second in the championship, but I'm just excited that we're having some good racing still. Nice to see that there was actually a little bit of a battle in the 250 class this weekend, and yeah, that first moto at Spring Creek was also a lot of fun too. All four of those guys up there mixing it up, doing battle. So excited to see what happens in the last 3 rounds, and yeah, we got a couple weekends to sit back and think about it, talk about some Loretta's action, a lot of interesting storylines at the ranch this year that we'll go over at some point. So excited to maybe do a little bit of Loretta's chatter here on this channel. But anyway, that is my recap of the 2024 Washougal National and some thoughts and opinions that I had on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm curious to think or hear what you guys think about the Nations discussion, as I mentioned. And we'll be back next week, I guess, to talk some Loretta's, and the week after that to recap Loretta's and then head into Unadilla. So thanks, guys, for tuning in, and look forward to chatting to you guys again soon. So long for now.